The fluorescent lights of Seoul Elementary School hummed, casting a sterile glow on the bustling playground. Children shrieked with laughter, their voices echoing off the concrete walls, a symphony of youthful energy that usually brought a smile to Kim Soo-hyun's face. But today, the sound grated. He stood awkwardly near the edge of the basketball court, watching his son, Min-jun, struggle to keep up with the other boys. Min-jun, all elbows and knees, tripped over his own feet, sending the basketball bouncing harmlessly away. A wave of giggles rippled through the group. "Look at Min-jun, he runs like a penguin," one boy jeered, his voice sharp and cruel. Others joined in, their laughter bouncing off Min-jun like stones. Soo-hyun's heart clenched. He knew Min-jun wasn't as physically coordinated as the other children. His illness, a rare neurological disorder that affected his motor skills, made even simple tasks a challenge. He wanted to rush to his son's side, shield him from the taunts, but he knew that would only make things worse. Min-jun needed to learn to navigate the world, even with its cruelties. So, Soo-hyun remained where he was, his hands clenched into fists in his pockets, his face a mask of forced neutrality. The bell rang, a welcome reprieve. The children scattered, their laughter fading as they hurried towards the school building. Min-jun, his face flushed and tear-streaked, trudged towards his father. "Appa," he said, his voice barely a whisper. They laughed. Soo-hyun knelt down, his hand gently cupping his son's cheek. "I know, Min-jun, but their laughter doesn't define you. You are strong, you are brave, and you are loved." He hugged Min-jun tightly, burying his face in his son's soft hair. "Come on," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Let's go to class." Mr. Park, Min-jun's teacher, was a young man with kind eyes and an easy smile. He greeted them at the door, his gaze lingering on Min-jun's downcast face. "Good morning, Min-jun. Ready for another exciting day of learning?" Min-jun managed a weak smile. Soo-hyun bowed to Mr. Park. "Thank you for everything, Seon-seongnam, teacher." As Soo-hyun turned to leave, he overheard a group of parents whispering amongst themselves. "Poor Min-jun," one woman said, her voice laced with pity. "It's such a shame. He'll never be able to keep up." Another chimed in, "His father is always so worried. He hovers like a hawk." Soo-hyun ignored them, his shoulders slumped. He knew what they were saying was true. Min-jun's illness cast a long shadow over their lives. He worked tirelessly, holding down 2 jobs to pay for Min-jun's therapy and medical expenses. He sacrificed everything for his son, but sometimes, he felt like it wasn't enough. Later that day, Mr. Park noticed Min-jun sitting alone at his desk during recess, sketching furiously in his notebook. The other children were outside playing, their shouts and laughter drifting in through the open window. Mr. Park approached him cautiously. "What are you drawing, Min-jun?" he asked gently. Min-jun hesitated, then shyly showed him the notebook. It was filled with intricate drawings of fantastical creatures, futuristic cities, and complex mechanical designs. The level of detail was astonishing, far beyond what one would expect from a child his age. "These are amazing, Min-jun," Mr. Park said, genuinely impressed. "You have a real talent." Min-jun blushed, his eyes sparkling for the first time that day. "Thank you." Mr. Park flipped through the pages, his brow furrowing in concentration. He noticed that many of the drawings incorporated complex mathematical equations and scientific principles. He pointed to a particularly intricate design of a robotic arm. "What is this?" Min-jun explained, his voice filled with enthusiasm, how the arm worked, detailing the mechanics, the sensors, and the algorithms that controlled its movements. Mr. Park listened intently, his initial surprise giving way to astonishment. He realized that Min-jun wasn't just drawing pictures, he was designing, inventing, and creating on a level that was far beyond his years. He asked Min-jun more questions, delving deeper into his knowledge and understanding. He discovered that Min-jun possessed an extraordinary intellect, a brilliant mind that was hidden beneath his physical limitations. He saw something truly special, a potential that was being overlooked, perhaps even dismissed, by everyone else. He realized that the penguin on the basketball court was a genius in disguise. Min-jun, Mr. Park said, his voice filled with conviction. You have a gift. A very special gift. And I think it's time the world knew about it. Mr. Park's words resonated within Min-jun, a flicker of hope igniting in his chest. He had always loved to draw, to create worlds and machines on paper, but the laughter and the pity had chipped away at his confidence. Now, here was someone, a teacher he admired, telling him that his creations mattered. But doubt quickly followed. But no one else thinks so, Min-jun mumbled, his voice barely audible. They just see this. He gestured weakly to his trembling hands. Mr. Park knelt beside him, meeting his gaze. Min-jun, what they see is not who you are. Your mind, your ideas, that's who you are. And that's what matters. He paused, considering his next words carefully. I want to help you show them. Would you like that? Min-jun looked up, his eyes wide with a mixture of hope and disbelief. He nodded slowly. Mr. Park smiled. Great! Then let's start planning. How about we enter one of your designs in the upcoming science fair? It's a school-wide event, and it would be a perfect opportunity to showcase your talent. Min-jun's initial enthusiasm waned. The science fair meant presenting his work, speaking in front of people, facing the judging eyes. The thought filled him with dread. I don't know. I get nervous. And my hands. Mr. Park anticipated his hesitation. We can work on that together, Min-jun. We'll practice your presentation. We'll find ways to adapt the display so you can demonstrate your designs comfortably. We'll take it one step at a time. He squeezed Min-jun's shoulder reassuringly. I promise, I'll be right there with you. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Mr. Park dedicated extra time after school to work with Min-jun. He helped him refine his robotic arm design, focusing on the functionality and the underlying scientific principles. He also helped Min-jun prepare his presentation, teaching him techniques to manage his anxiety and project his voice. Soo-hyun, initially skeptical, was amazed by the transformation in his son. Min-jun, usually withdrawn and quiet, was now animated and enthusiastic, talking incessantly about his designs and the science fair. He saw a newfound confidence blossoming within Min-jun, a spark that had been dormant for too long. He was deeply grateful to Mr. Park for recognizing his son's potential and giving him a chance to shine. However, the whispers and the sideways glances from the other parents continued. Some were openly dismissive, suggesting that Mr. Park was wasting his time on a lost cause. Others were more subtle, expressing their concern for Min-jun, implying that the pressure of the science fair would be too much for him to handle. One afternoon, Soo-hyun overheard a group of parents talking in the schoolyard. It's nice that Mr. Park is trying to be supportive, one woman said, but let's be realistic. Min-jun is never going to be a scientist or an engineer. He should focus on learning basic life skills, not chasing unrealistic dreams. Another parent chimed in, and what about the other children? Shouldn't Mr. Park be focusing on the students who actually have a chance of succeeding? Soo-hyun's anger simmered. He wanted to confront them, to defend his son's abilities and potential. But he knew that arguing with them would only make things worse. He clenched his fists and walked away, his heart heavy with frustration and sadness. The day of the science fair arrived, and the school gymnasium was buzzing with excitement. Students proudly displayed their projects, explaining their ideas and demonstrating their inventions to the judges and the visitors. Min-jun stood nervously beside his display, his robotic arm gleaming under the bright lights. Mr. Park stood beside him, offering words of encouragement and support. Soo-hyun watched from the sidelines, his heart pounding with anxiety. As the judges approached, Min-jun's hands began to tremble uncontrollably. He struggled to control his movements, and his voice caught in his throat. He looked at Mr. Park, his eyes filled with panic. Mr. Park placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Take a deep breath, Min-jun," he whispered. "You know this project inside and out. Just tell them what you know." Min-jun took a deep breath and began to speak, his voice initially shaky but gradually growing stronger. He explained the design of his robotic arm, detailing the mechanics, the sensors, and the algorithms that controlled its movements. He answered the judges' questions with clarity and precision, demonstrating his deep understanding of the underlying scientific principles. As he spoke, his confidence grew, and his passion for his project shone through. The judges were impressed, not only by the complexity and ingenuity of his design but also by his knowledge and his enthusiasm. However, the other students and parents who gathered around the display were less receptive. Many of them whispered and snickered, their laughter echoing in the gymnasium. Some made rude comments about Min-jun's physical limitations, while others dismissed his project as a pipe dream. Min-jun heard their laughter, and his confidence began to waver. His hands trembled more violently, and his voice faltered. He looked at his father, his eyes filled with despair. Soo-hyun couldn't bear to see his son suffering. He knew that Min-jun was on the verge of giving up. He had to do something. He pushed his way through the crowd and stood beside Min-jun, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. "Don't listen to them, Min-jun," he said, his voice loud and clear. "They don't understand what you've accomplished. They don't see your potential." He turned to the crowd, his eyes blazing with anger. "My son is a brilliant young man," he said. "He may have physical limitations, but he has a mind that is sharper and more creative than any of yours. He is going to change the world someday, and you will all be sorry that you ever doubted him." The crowd fell silent, stunned by Soo-hyun's outburst. Min-jun looked at his father, his eyes filled with gratitude and love. He took another deep breath and continued his presentation, his voice now stronger and more confident than before. As he finished, the judges congratulated him on his impressive project. They praised his creativity, his knowledge, and his perseverance. They awarded him first prize in the science fair, a recognition that was met with thunderous applause from the audience. Even some of the parents who had previously doubted him were now clapping and cheering, their faces flushed with embarrassment. The next day, Min-jun's story was all over the local news. The media hailed him as a genius in disguise, a young inventor who had overcome his physical limitations to achieve extraordinary things. He received offers of scholarships and internships from prestigious universities and research institutions. But the most rewarding outcome of the science fair was the change in the way Min-jun was perceived by his peers. The students who had previously mocked him now looked up to him with admiration and respect. They sought his advice and his help with their own projects. They finally saw him, not as the sick kid who struggled to walk, but as a brilliant and inspiring young man. The laughter had stopped. And in its place, there was admiration, respect, and a newfound appreciation for the extraordinary potential that lay hidden within Min-jun. The teacher had discovered his million-dollar secret, but it was Soo-hyun's unwavering belief in his son that had truly unlocked it for the world to see. The attention was overwhelming. Suddenly, Min-jun wasn't just the sick kid anymore, he was a local hero. The principal, who had previously seemed indifferent to Min-jun's struggles, now beamed at him with pride, promising new resources for the school's science program, all thanks to Min-jun's inspiring innovation. Soo-hyun, however, remained grounded. He knew the fickle nature of public opinion. The accolades were nice, but what mattered most was Min-jun's well-being and his continued growth. He worried about the pressure mounting on his son, the expectations that came with sudden fame. One afternoon, a sleek black car pulled up outside their modest home. A woman in a sharp business suit emerged, her heels clicking on the pavement. She introduced herself as Miss Choi, a representative from a venture capital firm. "Mr. Kim Soo-hyun," she began, her voice crisp and professional. "We've been following Min-jun's progress with great interest. His robotic arm design has the potential to revolutionize prosthetics. We're prepared to offer a substantial investment to help him develop it further." Soo-hyun was taken aback. He had never imagined such an opportunity. Investment? But Min-jun is still just a child. Miss Choi smiled smoothly. "We understand. We're not looking to exploit him. We want to provide him with the resources he needs to reach his full potential. We'll assemble a team of engineers and mentors to guide him. Of course, all decisions will ultimately rest with you and Min-jun." The offer was tempting, almost too good to be true. Soo-hyun saw the possibilities: state-of-the-art equipment, expert guidance, a chance for Min-jun to truly make a difference. But he also saw the potential pitfalls: the pressure to perform, the risk of losing control of his son's creation, the intrusion into their private lives. He looked at Min-jun, who stood beside him, his eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Soo-hyun knew he couldn't make this decision alone. "Miss Choi," he said, "this is a very generous offer. But we need time to consider it. This is a big decision for Min-jun, and we want to make sure it's the right one for him." Miss Choi nodded, her expression unwavering. "Of course. We understand. Here's my card. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions." After Miss Choi left, Soo-hyun sat down with Min-jun. "What do you think, son? Do you want to work with them?" Min-jun hesitated. "I don't know, Dad. It sounds amazing, but what if I mess up? What if I'm not good enough?" Soo-hyun put his arm around his son. "Min-jun, you are more than good enough. You've already accomplished so much. But this decision is about more than just your talent. It's about your happiness, your well-being. If you're not comfortable with it, we'll say no. It's as simple as that." They spent the next few days researching Miss Choi's firm, talking to Mr. Park, and weighing the pros and cons. They learned that the firm had a reputation for being aggressive and demanding, but also for supporting innovative projects. Mr. Park advised caution but also encouraged Min-jun to explore the opportunity. Ultimately, it was Min-jun who made the decision. He realized that this was a chance to not only improve his own life but also to help others with disabilities. He wanted to use his robotic arm design to create affordable prosthetics for those who couldn't afford them. "Dad," he said, "I want to do it. But I want to do it our way. I want to make sure that we stay in control, that we don't let them push us around." Soo-hyun smiled. "That's my boy. We'll make sure of it." They contacted Miss Choi and laid out their terms. They would retain creative control over the project, they would have the right to approve all major decisions, and a portion of the profits would be donated to charity. To Soo-hyun's surprise, Miss Choi agreed to all their conditions, albeit with a barely perceptible tightening of her lips. The partnership was formed, and Min-jun's project took off. He worked with a team of engineers to refine his design, using state-of-the-art equipment that he could only have dreamed of before. He learned about advanced robotics, materials science, and artificial intelligence. He thrived in the challenging environment, his creativity and intelligence blossoming. Soo-hyun, however, remained vigilant. He attended every meeting, scrutinized every contract, and made sure that Min-jun's voice was always heard. He was determined to protect his son from being exploited, to ensure that he remained true to his vision. One day, Miss Choi called Soo-hyun into her office. "Mr. Kim," she said, her voice unusually soft, "I wanted to apologize for my initial reservations. I underestimated Min-jun. He's truly exceptional. He has the potential to change the world. Soo-hyun nodded, acknowledging the compliment. He does. But he needs our support, not our pressure. Ms. Choi smiled. You're right. And we're committed to providing that support. As Min Jun's project progressed, he began to attract international attention. He was invited to speak at conferences, interviewed by major news outlets, and nominated for prestigious awards. He became a role model for young people with disabilities, inspiring them to pursue their dreams despite their challenges. The laughter had long faded away, replaced by admiration, respect, and a growing recognition of Min Jun's extraordinary talent. The teacher had discovered his million-dollar secret, but it was Soo-hyun's unwavering love and support that had allowed him to share it with the world. And it was Min Jun's heart that would truly make the difference. The accolades piled up, but Soo-hyun never forgot the sting of the initial mockery. He saw it in the fleeting glances of some parents at school functions, a lingering disbelief that this was the same boy they'd dismissed. He also saw it, sometimes, in Min Jun's eyes, a shadow of the pain he'd endured. One afternoon, while Min Jun was engrossed in a virtual reality simulation, tweaking the finer points of the prosthetic's grip sensitivity, Soo-hyun received a call. It was from Mr. Park. Soo-hyun, do you have a moment? Mr. Park's voice was unusually grave. Of course, Mr. Park. Is everything all right? Soo-hyun asked, a knot of anxiety tightening in his stomach. It's about the school, Mr. Park began hesitantly. There's been some discussion about Min Jun's success, and how it reflects on the school's image. Soo-hyun frowned. I don't understand. Is there a problem with Min Jun attending? The thought sent a jolt of protectiveness through him. He wouldn't let them push Min Jun out now, not after everything. No, nothing like that, Mr. Park assured him quickly. It's more, some parents have expressed concerns. They feel that the school isn't equipped to handle Min Jun's unique needs, and that his project is taking up too much of Mr. Choi's time and resources. They seem resentful of the attention he is receiving. Soo-hyun's jaw tightened. Resentment, disguised as concern. It was the same old prejudice, just dressed up in a new guise. And what does the principal say? The principal is trying to balance everyone's concerns. He suggested holding a meeting to discuss Min Jun's future at the school. Soo-hyun sighed. He knew what that meant. It was a thinly veiled attempt to pressure them to either downplay Min Jun's achievements or, worse, to leave the school altogether. We'll be there, Mr. Park. Thank you for the warning. He hung up, his mind racing. He glanced at Min Jun, still lost in his virtual world, oblivious to the brewing storm. He couldn't let this affect him. He had to shield him from the negativity, to protect his fragile confidence. That evening, Soo-hyun and Min Jun sat down to dinner, but Soo-hyun couldn't bring himself to tell Min Jun about the meeting. He didn't want to burden him with the petty jealousies and insecurities of others. The day of the meeting arrived, and Soo-hyun felt a familiar wave of anxiety wash over him. He walked into the school's conference room, hand in hand with Min Jun, bracing himself for the confrontation. The room was filled with parents, their faces a mixture of curiosity, suspicion, and outright hostility. The principal sat at the head of the table, his expression carefully neutral. Mr. Park was there too, standing near the back of the room, his eyes filled with concern. The principal cleared his throat. Welcome, everyone. We're here today to discuss Min Jun's progress and his role in our school community. He paused, glancing at Soo-hyun. Some parents have raised concerns about the resources being dedicated to Min Jun's project, and whether it's fair to the other students. A woman in the front row, her face pinched with disapproval, spoke up. It's not that we don't admire Min Jun's talent, but is it really appropriate for the school to be acting as a research lab? Our children are here to learn the basics, not to be overshadowed by a prodigy. Another parent chimed in. And what about the disruption? The media attention, the constant visitors, it's all very distracting. Soo-hyun listened patiently, his anger simmering beneath the surface. He knew that these complaints were just a smokescreen for their own insecurities, their own fears that their children wouldn't measure up. When they finally finished, Soo-hyun took a deep breath and stood up. "I understand your concerns," he said, his voice calm but firm. "But I think you're missing the bigger picture. Min-jun's project isn't just about him. It's about innovation, about pushing boundaries, about showing the world what's possible, regardless of disability." He gestured to Min-jun, who was sitting quietly beside him, his eyes fixed on the table. "My son has faced more challenges in his young life than most of you can imagine. But he hasn't let those challenges define him. He's used them as fuel to create something extraordinary. And if that inspires other students to dream bigger, to work harder, then I think that's something to be celebrated, not resented." He paused, his gaze sweeping across the room. "As for the resources, we are more than happy to contribute financially to offset any costs associated with Min-jun's project. We are also committed to minimizing any disruption to the school's regular activities." He sat down, feeling drained but resolute. He had said what he needed to say. Now it was up to them. The principal cleared his throat again. "Thank you, Mr. Kim. That was very well said." He looked around the room, his expression more assertive than before. "I think we can all agree that Min-jun is a valuable asset to our school. And we should be doing everything we can to support him, not hinder him." He proposed a compromise. The school would establish a special fund to support Min-jun's project, and the family would work closely with the school administration to manage the media attention and minimize any disruption. To Soo-hyun's surprise, the parents agreed to the compromise. Perhaps they had been swayed by his words, or perhaps they simply realized that fighting against Min-jun's success was a losing battle. As they left the meeting, Mr. Park rushed over to them, his face beaming. "Soo-hyun, Min-jun, that was incredible. You handled that situation with such grace and strength. I'm so proud of you both." Min-jun smiled shyly. "Thank you, Mr. Park. It means a lot to us." Back at home, Soo-hyun sat down with Min-jun. "You know, son," he said, "sometimes people will try to bring you down, to make you feel like you don't belong. But you can't let them. You have to stay true to yourself, to your dreams. And you have to remember that you're not alone. I'll always be here for you, no matter what." Min-jun leaned against his father, his eyes filled with gratitude. "I know, Dad. And I'll always be here for you too." The incident at the school served as a reminder of the challenges they still faced, but it also strengthened their resolve. They knew that they had to continue to fight for their dreams, to prove to the world that anything is possible, no matter what the obstacles. A few months later, Min-jun received an invitation to present his robotic arm design at an international science fair in Switzerland. It was a prestigious event, attended by scientists, engineers, and innovators from all over the world. Soo-hyun was hesitant at first. The thought of traveling to a foreign country, of navigating unfamiliar customs and languages, filled him with anxiety. But he knew that this was an opportunity that Min-jun couldn't afford to miss. They prepared meticulously for the trip, researching the local customs, practicing their presentations, and packing everything they needed. Miss Choi offered to send a translator and a PR team, but Soo-hyun politely declined. He wanted to handle this on their own, to prove that they could succeed on their own terms. When they arrived in Switzerland, they were immediately struck by the beauty of the country, the snow-capped mountains, the crystal-clear lakes, the charming villages. But they were also nervous, intimidated by the scale of the event and the caliber of the attendees. On the day of the presentation, Min-jun was visibly nervous. His hands were shaking, and his voice was barely a whisper. Soo-hyun put his arm around him, whispering words of encouragement. "You can do this, son. You've worked so hard for this. Just remember why you're here, and who you're doing this for." Min-jun took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage. As he began to speak, his voice grew stronger, his confidence rising with each word. He described his design, explaining the science behind it, demonstrating its capabilities. He spoke with passion and conviction, his enthusiasm infectious. The audience was captivated. They listened intently, their eyes fixed on Min-jun as he demonstrated the robotic arm's dexterity, its ability to perform complex tasks with precision and ease. When he finished, the room erupted in applause. People stood to their feet, cheering and clapping, their faces filled with admiration. Min-jun had done it. He had conquered his fears, overcome his challenges, and wowed the world with his talent. After the presentation, Soo-hyun was approached by a man in a suit, his face etched with excitement. "Mr. Kim," he said, extending his hand, "my name is Dr. Steiner, and I'm the director of the Swiss National Science Foundation. Your son's design is truly remarkable. We would be honored to offer him a research grant to continue his work here in Switzerland." Soo-hyun was stunned. He had never imagined that Min-jun's project would attract such attention, such recognition. He looked at Min-jun, his eyes shining with pride. "What do you think, son? Do you want to stay in Switzerland?" Min-jun hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, Dad. I want to do it. I want to keep working on my design, to make it even better. And I want to help other people with disabilities." Soo-hyun smiled. He knew that this was the right decision. It was a chance for Min-jun to fulfill his potential, to make a real difference in the world. They accepted the offer, and began to make plans to relocate to Switzerland. It was a daunting task, but they were determined to make it work. As they prepared to leave Korea, Soo-hyun couldn't help but reflect on their journey, the challenges they had faced, the triumphs they had celebrated. He had learned so much from Min-jun, about resilience, about courage, about the power of the human spirit. He knew that their journey was far from over, but he was confident that they could face whatever challenges lay ahead, as long as they had each other. And he knew, with absolute certainty, that Min-jun's $1 million secret wasn't just his talent, but his unwavering heart. The move to Switzerland was a whirlwind. Finding an apartment, navigating the bureaucracy, and adjusting to a new language and culture were all overwhelming. But Min-jun thrived. The research lab at the Swiss National Science Foundation was a haven for him. He was surrounded by brilliant minds, cutting-edge technology, and an atmosphere of unwavering support. He spent hours tinkering, designing, and experimenting, his robotic arm project evolving at an astonishing pace. Soo-hyun, however, struggled. He missed Korea, his friends, and the familiar comfort of his old life. He felt lost in the sterile environment of the lab, unable to contribute in any meaningful way to Min-jun's work. He tried learning German, but the grammar seemed impenetrable. Loneliness gnawed at him. One evening, as Min-jun was engrossed in his work, Soo-hyun wandered out of the lab and into the crisp Swiss air. He found himself in a small park, watching children play. He noticed a young girl struggling to climb onto a swing. Her movements were awkward, hesitant. He recognized the signs of a motor disorder, similar to Min-jun's. An idea sparked in his mind. He approached the girl and her mother, introducing himself as Min-jun's father. He explained Min-jun's project and how it could potentially help children like her. The mother was skeptical at first, but Soo-hyun's genuine concern and quiet determination won her over. He arranged for Min-jun to meet the girl, named Ilara. The meeting was magical. Min-jun, usually shy and reserved, lit up in Ilara's presence. He showed her the robotic arm, demonstrating how it could help her perform everyday tasks. Ilara's eyes widened with wonder,